With a new headline from Politico. In the end, it's Mitt. All of this making the first presidential debate, which is less than 1 week away now, even more critical for the governor. Let's go ahead and bring in today's News Nation panel. Democratic strategist David Goodfriend, MSNBC contributor Michael Smerconish, also a nationally syndicated radio talk show host as well, and Steve Deace, conservative radio talk show host. Thanks so much to all of you for being with me on this Friday. Steve, let me start with you. These new poll numbers, the head-to-head showing the president now ahead in all 3 states, North Carolina, Nevada, and New Hampshire. New Hampshire, of course, Romney's home away from home where he has that vacation spot. Governor Romney's favorables continue to be underwater in all but North Carolina now. Combine these numbers with what we've seen all week. How worried are Republicans? How worried are they that we're approaching the point where it might be time to cut bait and focus on the congressional races?
I think people are getting very worried, and I had a pollster that's been doing conservative polling for 3 decades on my show last night, and he said it may be time to go back to a 1996 model of telling the American people, listen, if you're going to re-elect Bill Clinton, you better have Republicans in the Congress to make sure to keep him in check. I think it may be a little early for that yet. I think the president still has some weaknesses because of the economy, and I think because of that, Mitt Romney's probably been given more chances than he otherwise would to make his case to the American people. But I think this very first debate next week may be his last best chance to make his case.
Do you think that if the debate's a flop for Mitt Romney, that all of a sudden some of these super PACs, some of these big dollar donors, some of the establishment, do they begin to abandon him next Thursday?
I think it will certainly heighten. We'll go to DEFCON 5. Whatever the next color is on the Homeland Security chart, I lose track of them. We'll probably go to. But I think, listen, I think what Mitt needs to do, Craig, is really just be himself. Stop trying to be a conservative. He's not. Stop trying to be a culture warrior. He's not. We're not talking about a guy that has really deep ideological convictions. His real moral convictions are in his family, obviously, where he's got a picturesque, American model there. Beyond that, the guy's really best known for making money for himself and other people, and thus creating jobs for those that don't have that wealth. And that's why I think he needs to be.
David, it sounds like Steve's essentially saying, let Mitt be Mitt. Is it too late for that?
Well, it's not as though people don't understand who Mitt Romney is. You know, I'm coming to you from my hometown of Madison, Wisconsin. Wisconsin's a swing state, and Wisconsin is the home state of Paul Ryan, who's also on the Republican ticket. And the gamble that the Republicans made was that he would give them a bump here in the upper Midwest, and that has not happened. It's not because Paul Ryan fails to connect with people or because people don't know who Mitt Romney is. I think we are witnessing a full-scale swing of the pendulum. You know, here in Wisconsin, Scott Walker survived the recall effort, but you have Tammy Baldwin pulling ahead of Tommy Thompson, a double-digit swing from where she was. She used to be trailing, and that's after the Democratic convention. You have Barack Obama, President Obama, pulling ahead here in the upper Midwest. So I start to think that this may be less about just this is only Mitt Romney, Mitt's got to be Mitt, it's all about Mitt. No. I think this runs deeper than that. I think this is a sort of re-centering of the American electorate that we're witnessing.
Yeah. Michael, I want to get back to that Politico article that we mentioned at the top of the show.
Sure.
I'm going to put an excerpt on the screen here. It isn't the chair of the or the ho-hum convention or the leaked video or Stuart Stevens, or the improving economy, or media bias, or distorted polls, or the message, or Mormonism. It's Mitt. Is it that simple? Is the problem at the end of the day that it's the candidate himself, that it's Mitt Romney, who perhaps isn't what some thought he would be in terms of a candidate?
I think it's some of the intangibles that surround the race, but I think largely it's the candidate himself. And the problem, as I perceive it, is that he's trying to please too many different bosses. He had to tack far to the right, Craig, in order to win that primary process. He survived it. I always thought there was then going to be a leftward, at least move toward the center, to put him more where he had been as the governor of Massachusetts. And it's come in drips and drabs, but there have been too many Mitts. I think that's the problem. I disagree with something that's been said, which is that, people know him by now. He's been running for 2 years. I think they're still having a hard time putting this guy in a particular column on different issues.
Is part of it, Michael Smerconish, that he is not an ideologue at his core, and that he has essentially had to sort of pretend to be something that he is not for so long? Is that part of it, you think?
Well, I don't know what it is, but that's what I suspected it is.
Okay.
I think at his core, he's the guy who really was the more centrist governor.
Pragmatic.
Of a very liberal state. How else did he get elected as the governor of Massachusetts?
Craig, can I jump in here?
Sure.
That he's run.
Sure, go ahead. Jump in.
Craig, I just want to say, Mitt Romney has two home states where he was born and raised, Michigan, and where he was governor, Massachusetts. He's trailing by double digits in both. It's as if the people who know him best like him least. I don't think this is an issue of he's just got to get himself out there and have people get to know him. No, no, no. Where they know him, he's losing.
But I don't think they recognize him. I don't think that those who are in Massachusetts recognize the incarnation of Mitt Romney, who's now seeking the presidency. He's not the same guy.
Whose positions right now are tremendously different than they were.
Correct.
With regards to abortion, with regards to gays, with regards to gun control. Steve, I want to bring you back in here because there was an op-ed in the Washington Post that is written by yet another conservative voice who sees some issues with the Romney campaign. This is from Charles Crowdham. I'm going to put a quote here on the screen. It makes you think how far ahead Romney would be if he were actually running a campaign. His unwillingness to go big, to go for the larger argument, is simply astonishing. Steve Deace, do you think that if Mitt Romney, if that campaign had presented some sort of monumental, some sort of major idea at this point, do you think that perhaps he would be ahead or at least closer than he is right now?
Yes, I agree with that analysis. You know, I've said on this network for the last 8 or 9 months that barring that, we were going to look at a replay of 2004 with Obama with a trend line very similar to George W. Bush. The American people like him, but they're open to somebody better. And Mitt Romney is now the next Massachusetts guy that maybe has been a flip-flopper in the past, and like John Kerry. And can he close the sale with the American people? This has been a referendum on Mitt Romney all along. I mean, we already had a referendum on Obama. It was called the 2010 midterm elections. So this election is not about what's happened the last 4 years anymore in the minds of the American people, Craig. It's about who will do a better job for the next 4 years. And Romney needs to present something that will give them an idea other than, gee, hasn't Obama sucked? You can't win like that. If you could win a campaign on only negatives, Howard Dean would have been the Democrat nominee and the president of the United States. You've got to give people a reason to actually vote for you.
Steve Deace, you make a compelling argument there, and you bring me to my next point. The debates, perhaps, Michael Smerconish, the next opportunity and the last opportunity for Mitt Romney to make this case. Both sides have released memos. This is Beth Myers of the Romney campaign.
Right.
This is what she says in part. It's clear that President Obama will use his ample rhetorical gifts and debating experience to one end, attacking Mitt Romney. We fully expect a 90-minute attack ad. David Axelrod, not to be outdone of the Obama campaign, countering with this, saying in part, quote, we expect Mitt Romney to be prepared, disciplined, and aggressive. Debates, and particularly the first debate, generally favor challenges. Are both sides just trying to manage expectations here?
Absolutely.
This guy's really good. He's really good.
Wow. Hey, how did we get in the ring with him all of a sudden?
Right.
They're both very skilled on their feet. I mean, that's how they got this far. I don't know that the second and third debate will matter that much for Governor Romney if there isn't something significant that comes out of debate number one. And it's not so much because the president is running ahead now and here's the way it could stack up in 39 days, Craig. People are voting now. What those polls tell us is this is the way it's going down as we speak.
David, what do you think? I mean, do you think that the debate next Wednesday could be some sort of game changer, or do you think that we are perhaps reading way too much into it and that this thing's probably already set in stone?
Nothing's ever set in stone. I agree with my colleague who said voting's already started. 40% of voters probably will vote early in this election, so that makes this a different ballgame. But I don't think this is a make-or-break moment. I think Mitt Romney perceives it as a make-or-break moment, and that is dangerous for him. You see, I think one of the biggest mistakes Mitt Romney could make is to come out swinging and say something rash that makes him look ridiculous like he did after the Libya crisis. I think he's got to be careful to make sure he still looks presidential and doesn't look like, you know, just some sort of barracuda nipping at Obama's heels. So there's a delicate balance here, and if Mitt Romney and his advisors are treating this as the make-or-break moment, that could invite mistakes, in my opinion.
Steve Deace, what does Camp Romney need to be doing in terms of the debate next Wednesday?
Well, this idea of fact-checking Obama, I think, is a bad idea. I just think continuing to make a case that the majority of the American people had demonstrated 2 years ago they agree with, you've already conquered that hill. I think Romney needs to look like a credible, transparent, sincere leader with a plan. And a plan that is specific and simple to understand and has benchmarks, you know, like he'd give investors at Bain Capital. He wouldn't walk into a room of venture capitalists and say, hey, just give me your money to buy this company. I can't tell you how we'll turn it around, but we'll make it all work here and in the black in the next 2 years. No, offer specifics and offer benchmarks that can hold you accountable by the American people and do it credibly and sincerely. It's frankly almost like Obama is not on the stage. Romney needs to make this case himself to the American people.
Steve Deace, we're going to have to leave it there. Thank you, my friend. Democratic strategist David Goodfriend, always a pleasure. And Michael Smirkanis here in the studio.
Thank you.
Rare treat.
Good to see you.
Have a great weekend. Safe travels back to Philly.